Denmark.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ming from the Department of Geography at National Taiwan University. Today, I'm going to share our study titled Climatic Controls on Vegetation Growth in Natural and Agromosaic Montane Cloud Ecosystems. This work was conducted by members from the Department of Geography and the Department of Atmospheric Sciences. In this study, we want to find out how temperature, precipitation, and fog affect plant growth in two types of montane cloud landscapes in Taiwan. And now let's get started. Montane cloud landscapes are distinctive environments. These ecosystems are highly climate sensitive because they are situated right inside the narrow mountain cloud band, where their growth depends on a very delicate balance of temperature, fog, and rain. Even a small change in temperature can shift the cloud band and disrupt their water and energy supply. In this study, we compare two kinds of landscapes in Taiwan. The first one is MCF, or montane cloud forest, located in the northeastern Taiwan. This is a natural forest and it's very foggy and wet. It gets about 3,900 millimeters of rain every year. And the second one is MCA, or montane cloud agromosaic. This area is famous for growing high-quality oolong tea. It has less fog and more obvious dry and wet seasons. This comparison is important because MCA includes additional human influences, such as cultivation and management practices, which may affect the relationship between bioclimate and vegetation growth. Vegetation growth in cloud landscapes is controlled by several factors, including energy, moisture, and cloud immersion. Fog wasn't quantitatively studied much before, so why do we decide to include it this time? Because fog is very interesting and has two different effects. On one hand, fog can reduce incoming shortwave radiation, which may limit photosynthesis. On the other hand, fog can increase moisture availability and potentially support vegetation growth during drier periods. So the effect of fog is not straightforward, and this study tries to quantify its role. The research focus is to examine how bioclimatic factors explain vegetation growth, and whether these relationships differ between MCF and MCA. The three main bioclimatic variables in our study are temperature, precipitation, and fog. And now let's introduce our method. We use a remote sensing metric called NRVP to represent vegetation growth. You can think of NRVP as a proxy for vegetation and photosynthetic activity. It combines the greenness of the leaves from satellite imagery with the actual sunlight they receive on the ground, making it a reliable surrogate to track plant productivity. And for the climate variables, temperature, precipitation, and PAR, which is photosynthetically active radiation, came from field measurements. And the fog probability was generated from ground-based time-lapse photos and Himawari-based satellite imagery using a machine learning model. And for the analysis, we use multiple regression and partial R-squared to examine the relative importance of different variables. Linear mixed models, or LMM, and ecosystem limitation index, or ELI, were also used as supporting analysis. In the following slides, I will mainly focus on the main regression patterns and the relative importance of these controls. And now let's take a look at the results. We examined the linear relationships between monthly NRVP and 3 bioclimatic variables at both annual and seasonal scales. In these plots, different colors represent different seasons, and solid lines show statistically significant relationships. And the first variable is temperature. Overall, the relationship is mostly positive. At the annual scale, temperature is significantly related to NRVP in both MCF and MCA. This suggests that warmer conditions are generally associated with higher vegetation activity in these mountain cloud landscapes. However, the annual relationship does not translate into the same seasonal pattern in both landscape types. And next is precipitation. Compared with temperature, precipitation shows a less consistent relationship with NRVP. At the annual scale, precipitation is significantly related to NRVP only in MCA, but not MCF. But seasonally, precipitation is generally not a crucial variable across mountain cloud landscapes. This suggests that rainfall alone does not explain vegetation activity very clearly in this system. One possible reason is that water availability in cloud landscapes is not only controlled by rainfall. Fog may also contribute moisture, so precipitation and vegetation activity do not always show a simple direct relationship. And the third variable is fog. Compared with temperature and precipitation, fog shows a more complicated pattern. The relationship is mixed, but in many cases it is negative, especially in MCF. This connects back to the mechanism I mentioned earlier. In the actual data, the radiation reduction effect of fog seems to be visible in many cases. Since NRVP includes PAR, higher fog probability can sometimes be associated with lower NRVP. In MCA, the fog relationship is weaker and less consistent. So the main point here is not that fog has a simple negative effect, but that its effect is not straightforward. This is why treating fog as a quantitative variable is important in our study. After looking at the individual relationships, we use multiple regression and partial R-squared to compare the relative importance of fog precipitation and temperature. For MCF, temperature is the dominant control, except during winter, and fog is also important in warm seasons. For MCA, the signals are weaker and more variable, meaning the relationships do not appear consistently across seasons. We suggest that this may be related to management practices, although management was not directly modeled in our research. To conclude, fog should not be treated only as background climate in mountain cloud landscapes. Including fog probability gives us a more complete picture because vegetation growth in cloud landscapes is shaped not only by heat and rainfall, but also by fog-related moisture and radiation conditions. The contrast between MCF and MCA show that the climate growth relationship also depends on landscape context. In natural cloud forests, the temperature fog controls are clear, while in agromosaic landscapes, the bioclimatic signal may be weakened by management influences. Taken together, these findings suggest that future fog shifts may alter vegetation growth in mountain cloud landscapes, but the effects of these shifts should be understood within their landscape content. For more detail, please refer to the full paper. The DOI is shown at the bottom of this slide. Thank you for listening.